All right. So I'm just gonna have to go with fuzzy face.
Hey, you got a good fuzzy face. Don't put your fuzzy face down.
I'm not putting. You're right. You're right. I shouldn't fuzzy face shame.
No fuzzy facing. Shame.
Face shame. Sure.
You know what I'm talking about.
Sure. Welcome to Table Talk, the show about beer, board games, and everything else. I'm Rich.
And I am Alex. And today we are talking about communication once again.
Talking about communication this month, guys. If you didn't get a chance to check out last week's episode, we paired our beer with a game called Code Names, which is all about communication. Got to have some good communication with code names. Good game to play with a big group of people, so be sure to do that. Do that soon. I'm drinking a New Holland Brewing Company beer called The Poet, American Oatmeal Stout. It's very good. Alex went on another end of the spectrum, though. What are you drinking, Alex?
I went with the Noda Brewing Company's Radio Haze, which is a juicy hazy IPA from Charlotte, North Carolina. Mm-hmm. Very tasty.
What's that a picture of on it, by the way?
It's a radio dial.
Is it? Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was like a record for a second. But yeah, I see it now.
See it now?
I see it now. Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was like a record player or something when you first showed it. But then I was like, that's not a record. But yeah, we're gonna spend this episode, guys, talking about just the evolution of technology as far as communication is concerned, and maybe just some other little tidbits here and there, just general communication conversation that we're having. Before we do that, I just want to let you guys know, if you're listening, be sure to check us out on the YouTube channel, Table Talk with Rich and Alex. And while you're there, just go ahead and subscribe. Might as well. Mm-hmm. There's no harm in it. I mean, it's just a little click. I mean, it's just a little button. That's all it is. Just go ahead and do that while you're there. If you guys are watching, hello. Ding, ding, ding. Check us out. Check out the podcast. You can pick it up on we're hosted on Buzzsprout, but you can pick us up on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible nowadays. You can pick us up pretty much anywhere. So if you don't have time to watch the video version, listen to the audio version on your daily commute, or if you're embarrassed to watch the video version of us because your friends make fun of you and they say, who are those guys? They look really really weird. You watch that, really? Then you can just put us in your ears secretly and listen to us because we know you like what you're hearing.
No shame. We know. It's the secret podcast. We communicate quietly.
Secret podcast. It's all right. It's all right. Secret. You can be ashamed of us. We're ashamed of ourselves 90% of the time. That's not true.
No, it's not. That's not true.
That's not true. That's not true. Yeah, actually, I like myself a lot. I like you too, Alex.
Hey, I like you, Rich. You're great. You're great. I'm communicating to you.
I know
that you should have confidence and humility.
Yeah, and humility. Yeah, thank you. I need people speaking that into my life. I need more humility in my life.
More humble communication. Yeah. It's good.
Little humble communication. I like that. Well, let's talk about communication. Where do you want to start, Alex? I mean, there's so many. I mean, it's kind of a broader topic, right? I mean, last month we were talking about maps. I mean, it's pretty much that's what we're talking about, right? Yeah, still got the maps up behind you. Yeah. Where do you want to start with communication? There's got to be a good place to start.
I think we should start at the beginning.
A very good place to start.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. Let's talk about humans adopting actual language. I have been particularly fascinated with this because watching my almost 3-month-old daughter now.
Right. Yeah.
Where she'll just kind of look at you and she communicates very, very distinctly, especially when she's not pleased at whatever situation. And And however, she's watching us between the mouth and the eyes. I never really got the fact that like you often have
Huh.
to like look at one thing and the other, and you're kind of like, well, what am I looking at? And I realize she's trying to put two and
Right.
two together right now. Probably will be a bit,
Huh.
but I'm always curious because because certain animals definitely use communication, and some of it is sounds, but a lot of it is more body
Right.
language. In particular, a lot of like
Right.
mammals who are on the kind of the emotional spectrum similar to humans, like whales and
Mm-hmm.
chimpanzees and such. Um, but yeah, I want to talk about that a little bit
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, well, you even just then, I got questions and stuff I want to add on.
sure,
Because I mean, this isn't. I'm not comparing our two situations at all. You have a newborn baby. We actually just got a puppy. So we
very
have
cute.
we have a little puppy named Lucy, and I've been kind of going through a similar process. Right, she's trying to understand. Like she's new. Like she's only about 8. She's only about 2.5 months right now.
She's
So
so cute.
like I mean, obviously she's a dog, so she's not really ever going to get to this point of like really understanding me completely. But I love like, and she makes great eye contact. It's kind of part of the reason that we got her, because she does make really good eye contact, and I like that. But I can kind of see her working. So she does like, the classic dog like the head tilt, and you can tell she's just trying to figure it out, and that's a great point you brought up with Violet. Like I never even thought about like trying to have to transition between, the different aspects of the face. Where do you look at
Yeah,
you personally,
yeah.
where do you look at when you're talking to somebody? Like, is there do you
Okay.
do you think of it as you do it, and where is it, and or does it just kind of happen instinctively?
I think with close friends, or family, I'm not really conscious of it, so I couldn't really
Right.
tell you in which I do.
Right.
I would hope to think. That came out weird. Hope to think that
Take another drink.
thanks. I would hope to think that I would be able to look people straight in the eye. That is one thing in terms of communication that my dad was very specific in teaching
Mhm.
us, and which it was super awkward when I was a kid, like little, but he would, or it would feel awkward, I should say, and not because it was wrong,
Mhm.
but more just because like you're new to the process, you don't really know how to do it. But I
Right.
remember, I think even like starting like elementary school to some degree, but certainly middle school, is that he would always encourage us to look somebody in the eye when shaking their hand and saying hello.
Right.
Now, obviously, this varies widely according to country as to what is culturally appropriate, which is also interesting about how it changes communication. Um,
Right.
uh,
Yeah.
long story short, I have a trick that if I'm really uncomfortable looking someone straight in the eye, you look at
Mhm.
the bridge of the nose, because
Yeah.
no one can really tell. Or you look at like an eyebrow, but then it gets confusing if someone's eyebrow is like moving around while they talk, and you're kind of
You're
like,
just kind of like
yeah, you're like, I can't keep up, man. Um, so yeah, bridge of the nose is helpful.
bridge of the nose. Okay.
And I also, especially sometimes like outdoors, like if you're uncomfortable looking at someone straight in the eye, sunglasses are so helpful.
Right.
In that
Yeah.
sense, because then at least like there's a little bit of
Yeah.
the barrier. At least that's what
Because
I've
then you can just doze off in the middle of the conversation. They'll have no
right. And
idea.
just do that. I mean, I did that as a tour guide, and what was great is that I could look at everyone and no one all at the same time, and
Right.
that was a really handy trick, because looking
Right.
at 20 people,
Mm.
eye to eye contact would have been exhausting for two
Yeah, that's
hours.
interesting. I mean that gets into kind of like public speaking too,
Mhm.
and I mean, there's a whole bunch of different tricks with public speaking. Um, not the least of which is just picturing everybody in their underwear. But also, well, here I'll get to that. I will tell you my thought process with it
Yeah.
is, honestly, I don't think about it. I don't know. I'm across the board. I was just thinking about it with you just now. I'm like, I think
Yeah.
I'm looking like right here with you.
Well, okay. So
Like,
this is
I
the
don't
question
know.
though.
I'm
This
kind
is
of
the
in this general area.
So this is the question: is do you think that Zoom eye contact actually counts?
No, because constantly with Zoom, and if you're a constant watcher of this show, you've probably caught on to this. If you're pretty, I mean, I don't know, maybe you have, maybe you haven't. I look at myself a lot on Zoom.
It's hard
I
not
can't
to.
help it.
Yeah.
I can't help it. I mean, part of it is this is we're filming a show. I want to make sure I'm framed correctly. I want to make sure that when I hold something up, I want to make sure that it's in the frame and everything. I still fail at that. But I do. I have a hard time really keeping. And like you can see my eyes darting back
Right.
and forth because I'm
It's hard not
constantly
to.
looking at
Yeah.
myself and you at the same time. I think it does count though. I mean, there is a part of there's a part of eye contact over like a Zoom or a video call that I think plays through. Like because when you have eye contact with somebody, you're kind of tuning into everything, right? If you're really
Mm-hmm.
paying attention,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're kind of picking up on the subtleties of what's being said, right? Whereas if you're not, then it kind of gets kind of lost in the wash, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I think it plays through. I think it plays a role. I think in Zoom or in any video call.
Do you find yourself feeling like you've adjusted because of the pandemic with the communication on Zoom compared to when you do it in real life? Or do you think it hasn't really done anything?
I don't know. I don't know
Like,
if I've noticed.
okay.
Do you mean with eye contact
Mm-hmm,
specifically, or
mm-hmm.
just
Yeah, with eye
general
contact.
conversation?
Yeah. Eye contact in
The only
general.
thing the only thing I've noticed more with Zoom is that I'm just looking at myself a lot more than I should be. It's like I'm on especially like with a huge conference call, like with my family. I'm like, man, like everybody's here. Like my cousins are here.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just like fixated on like my little corner of all this. I'm just like focus somewhere else. Like somebody else is talking. Like
Yep.
move your eyes over there.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's not a problem. And I mean, it is a problem. It's a good thing it's not a problem in real life, right? Like I can't see myself all the time, or else I'd constantly just be looking at myself the whole time.
Hi, my
Like,
name is Narcissus. How are you?
yeah, right. Just holding up a phone or something, a camera of myself while I'm talking to people, and just constantly looking at it.
It is an
Um,
interesting evolution of communication. We're now communicating in a way where we're almost watching ourselves communicate as much as we're actually communicating with the person we're meaning to communicate to.
the whole where you look thing in real life, though, is I mean, it gets into also. I think we're a little off topic of what we thought we were going to be doing, but
That's okay.
um, even just like the firm handshake and the eye contact, like
Mm-hmm.
the greeting, like do you mind talking about greetings? Let's talk about greetings.
Yeah,
Like
let's talk about greetings. That's great.
standard greeting, right? Is going to be a handshake, right? Eye contact, hi, how you doing, type of thing, right? Um, like, do you remember like learning like how to greet people and say hi to people like did you concentrate like on a handshake and like remembering like, oh, I'm looking at my hand, I should look at them, like, that, do you remember, like, did you go
Yes.
through any of that?
I remember it was the coordination, and it's like you have to really think, all right, hand, contact, all right, look up.
Right.
And when you're young, there is a like and it's weird now that I'm older where I don't really think about my body coordination much anymore. I mean, it's some of it,
Mm-hmm.
let's be honest, like some of it I'm like, look, I'm not the glory days that was 19-year-old Alex Barker, which,
Right.
as you guys know, I went to the Olympics. Now, that was absolutely not true.
19-year-old Alex was a completely different Alex.
Yeah, I was probably still tripping over myself. But what's interesting to me is that I don't think like there's certain things that you just know how to do that you don't think about doing. Like for instance,
Right.
cutting food. I don't think about like obviously I pay attention because I don't want to lose my fingers, but like
Right.
I'm not thinking, okay, I gotta cut it this way and I gotta do it's like most of it is
Yeah.
kind of just all right, I've done it enough where I know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
Um,
it's muscle memory at that
right.
point. Yeah.
So I think that at least with handshaking for now, at least until the pandemic happened,
Right. Yeah.
where now we're not supposed to shake hands, which is a really weird. It goes against everything in my body for
Yeah.
like on a communication like this is respectful. This is, a gesture of hospitality, welcome, warmth, whatever. And it's
Right.
it's it's weird how like the physical communication aspects are essentially being reworked in a way that I think we're all kind of like, so we got to welcome people at a distance. That's strange. That has been very strange, at least for me anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, long
Yeah.
story, but I remember.
Greetings during the pandemic have been hard.
Yeah, they really have.
It's been awkward for everybody. You're not alone. if you're
Um,
if you're out there and you've had a recent horrible interaction with somebody, it's because everybody has no idea what to do. Nobody knows what to do.
No one knows what
We
to
don't
do.
know if we should shake hands. We don't know if we should hug. We don't know if we should. Like, we don't know what to do. Greetings for the last year and a half have been bizarre. so just know that you're not alone. I've been there, definitely. I'm a hugger. I like to hug.
Were you like that as a
And
kid, or did you acquire that over time?
my family were huggers. Everybody hugged. It was just, I mean, it was just natural. I mean, I've kind of gotten to the point where I realize, okay, I'm a pretty big guy, and now I'm like, now I'm a big guy with a beard. Like, I don't know, like sometimes I don't feel like it's appropriate all the time. My instinct is to hug you. If you've ever had an experience with me where you're like, I don't know if he like really liked me. It's like my instinct was to hug you initially. I probably second guessed myself and then extended my hand, and that probably led to some type of combination hug handshake type of thing that you were probably very confused about. And that's pretty normal for me. Like, my instinct is first like, oh, I want to hug you, because I'm a nice person and I like hugging people. And then I'm more like, I should probably hold back a little bit. It's probably a little too strong. I don't even know if they like hugs, right? So
Do
I'm
you
kind
do
of
you
like,
okay? All right. So this is what I want to know.
sometimes
Do you have a
salute.
do you have a certain because this is the thing as I find fascinating, because hugs, especially, like there's certain, like, look, like some people don't want to be hugged, like in certain situations, like work, for instance. That is like, you're like, no, you just can't.
Right.
Handshakes are great because it's kind of like, all
Handshake
right,
at work. Yeah.
handshake at work, that's perfectly fine, and then
Right.
do it, done, whatever, high five,
Right.
whatever, or
High
nothing.
five. Yeah.
But obviously, with everyone, at least in my instance, working remotely, like that's a non-factor at this point.
Right. Yeah.
But here's a question for you: at what point do you believe in as someone who shows the expression of hospitality, welcome, warmth,
Right.
whatever,
Yeah.
by hugging? At what point do you realize that this person, whoever it is okay to hug?
Yeah, that's it's a great question, and it's a communication question, because I think, yeah, it depends. I make a judgment call, honestly, and all the time, like, I mean, sometimes I'll just be like, "Are you a hugger?"
Just
Make
state it
that joke
flat out. I like that.
Yeah, I'll just be like, "Are you a hugger?" Because I'm a hugger, honestly, all that is, as far as like, as far as like society norms are, like if somebody comes at you and says, "Are you a hugger?" and you say no, like what type of person are you, right? Like, of course you're gonna say yes, because you don't want to be the person that's like, "No, don't hug me," you know. So
Right.
it's still kind of, you're still kind of putting them in this spot where like you don't know if they want to hug or not. So it's a judgment call, I think. I mean, I don't know. I think let's approach it this way. I think you and I hugged pretty early on.
Oh, very
I think,
quickly.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was a standard handshake maybe at first, and then it was like, yeah, this guy's good with a hug probably. So I just kind of went for it.
That's
Probably.
that's where the like this with the hand and
Yeah.
then doing
Yeah.
the side hand thing. Sorry,
Yeah.
guys, this isn't very well demonstrated, but the side hand thing, and then you bring it in, and then you do the
Yeah.
with that,
Yeah.
and then eventually
Yeah.
you're like, okay, they've cleared that hurdle.
Yeah.
What
Right.
I ended up doing, and I have a feeling I did this with you. I do this with a lot of my guy friends, because just as like, look, like I'm a hugger. I really don't care,
Mhm.
and so I literally have like a bring it in
Yeah.
kind of
The wave.
thing,
Do the wave.
which is helpful. In some instances, obviously some of my friends might not like it because they may not be huggers. Um,
Right.
but it is helpful to be
You're
able to just like state like, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm not gonna
right.
make it awkward. I'm just gonna make it up front. And
Right.
if you feel awkward about it, well, then at least we know that it's not like the super weird like
Right. Yeah.
I don't really know what to do. So,
Yeah. Right.
um, but yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen you do. I've seen you do the wave before. Like you're calling in like an airplane, right?
yep,
You're just
yep. Bring it in. Come on,
come on,
bring it in,
come
bring it
on.
in.
Yeah, yeah,
Somebody did that when I was a kid, and I forget who it was, and I think it was like I feel like it was like an aunt or a grandma or someone. And I don't even
yeah,
know if it have been my grandma or my aunt, but somebody did it and always stuck with me as like a way to like gesture somebody in
yeah,
gently.
yeah,
I don't know, but
yeah. No,
yeah,
it's good. I like it. It communicates a sense of welcoming and an intention, right?
hmm
It is the whole body language. I mean, body language is huge. I mean, you and I are both married men.
hmm
I think married individuals experience body language on a completely different level than the rest of the rest of society because when you're with somebody, you know, for so long and you're with somebody for such a great extent of you know your recent adult life, you know, like you get in tune with so many things, right?
yeah.
You get in like you it's almost creepy how like well you can just be like hey, you're upset or like you're hungry. You know, like you can just kind of tell like and really nothing you could I mean not that you should, but you can kind of go like a whole day kind of not really even saying anything and have a pretty good feel for where the other person is at, you know, and what they're going through. It's
I've
interesting.
I've always thought, and I have my college roommate to thank, Mark Simonin. Shout out to you, sir. Whose personality is a lot more. He thinks before he speaks, kind of mentality, which I respect because that is something that I often don't do. Um, but the thing that I learned that was so valuable was understanding that in silence, it does not always equate to someone not being happy
Right.
in communication. Sometimes it's just
Right.
you just you just sit in the silence and
Right.
that's fine. And
Right.
that took me a long time to figure out, at least
Mhm.
that kind of variation in communication. But
Right.
then once I learned, then I started seeing people that I'm like, all right, I'm super comfortable if I'm not talking with. Um,
Mhm.
it's obviously there's different variations of like how one loves one's family or friends, but I realized that was a piece of it that took me a while to understand. And it's
Mhm.
just really interesting when you come to that, like, oh yeah, you can sit with someone for a day and
Right.
not say but 3 words, and things are
Right.
fine.
Right.
um
Yeah, it
so
is kind of that true it's kind of like that true level of I feel like not not understanding necessarily, but just kind of cohabitation even,
mhm,
you know,
mhm,
like we've reached this period and it's kind of it's interesting. I mean, we kind of like see like this level of comfort as the person that you can kind of just sit down with at the end of the day and just kind of watch TV or just you know like just kind of hang out with like you just don't want to like your brain really isn't like you're not working, you know, like it's
mhm,
not you know not that you know relationships aren't work but like you have to be you have to like you get to a certain point where you're just kind of on the same wavelength and it just kind of you know you're just kind of there
mhm,
it's interesting
mhm,
and it's not necessarily a marriage thing either like I've been in that relationship with my family growing up before I've been in that relationship with friends before you know where we're all living together or we're just you know we were you know like football friends where we're doing two a days and we've all seen each other for you know the last 14 hours for the last 2 weeks you know so we're all kind of in the same like we hate life type of situation like we're all just kind of there you know like we're all in the
yeah.
same boat we could all just sit in silence and just kind of understand each other you know it's interesting that's it yeah silence is a form of communication too
I often think I'm like, it's interesting how we don't really sit much in silence that well anymore. And I mean, a lot of it has to, let's be honest, a lot of it has to do with smartphones, where it kind of creates an interesting hiccup of like the potential to communicate with anyone and everyone is kind of like a very, at least this is something I struggle with. People who are listening they may think I'm crazy, which is perfectly fine.
That's probably normal. Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably normal. Most of my things are out of left field. I'm a lefty, so But the thing that I often think about is the fact that it's like we have this access to communicate to anybody at any time. But I think because of that, I've often wondered about like sitting in that silence, how often that actually exists. Where, like, for instance, at home, it's really hard because literally your phone and the Wi-Fi and the all this stuff is attached essentially wherever you are in the house. So it's really easy to just be like, yeah, sure, I'll hop on or whatever. Whereas, like, if you're going camping or something, like it feels more right to put your phone away because you're in nature or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
But I just wonder, like, because I think about going back in time. Like, do you remember when like dial-up first came into your home?
Not first came into the home, but I remember having dial-up. Yeah.
Do you remember what you did before dial-up?
That's a great question. Yeah, it is kind of hard to man, that's a great question, and I want to honor it, but I want to honor it after 1 full minute of silence.
Okay.
Since you mentioned the silence,
can I make eye contact with you?
Oh, we can do all sorts of things in this 1 minute.
All right.
If you're listening, this would be a great time to tune into the video version. But we're gonna do 1 whole minute.
If you get uncomfortable, Rich, just look at the bridge of my nose. Okay.
Okay, or your earlobe. Well, I can't see your ears.
Yeah, you can't see my ear. Haha.
All right, ready? 3, 2, 1, go. That wasn't good. We didn't last a second. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. And that's a minute.
That felt like eternity.
Oh man, that's interesting. But so a little bit of an experiment. We did that. We did develop some type of language within that 1 minute of silence. We started communicating with each other, even though we were trying not to because we didn't want to laugh. But we developed a little game with the microphone, like some type of.
It's so interesting.
Well, here let's get into. You said where did we start with the conversation? You started with kind of like body language and stuff like that. I looked up what I think like the earliest example of human like symbols, like the use of symbols from humans.
Okay.
Did you look into this?
Well, I have a feeling I know where you're going, so I'm curious to see where you.
Okay. Well, I don't want to steal your thunder.
Steal away, man. This is a one big thundercloud. It's all right.
So I did a little bit, a little bit of. I like that. We're each other's thunder.
Darn right.
That's poetic.
Yeah. Michigan, North Carolina. Boom, right there.
You're the poet.
You're the radio haze. Whatever that means.
Don't know how to take that. I'll take it as a
Just
compliment.
smile and say thank you. Yeah, there you go.
Thank you.
Yep, very good. All right.
So earliest example of human symbols. So language, at least as I understand it, kind of developed from the use of symbolism. Symbols being used to communicate things,
Yes.
right? Earliest version of this, as we all probably could guess, is cave paintings, right? So there is a cave that is really well preserved in France called the Chav. Again, I can't pronounce anything. I apologize if you're French or from this region. I'm not pronouncing it correctly. I apologize. It's Chavette Cave. It's a cave in southeastern France with cave paintings in it that were discovered in 1994, dating as far back. Well, the cave itself, they dated it being inhabited as far back as 37,000 years ago. The paintings themselves, they kind of estimate around 30,000 years ago. But they're very well preserved, and I'm sure we'll have photos that we'll show on the show here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, super cool.
The artists who produced the paintings used techniques rarely found in the walls, rarely found in other cave art. Many of the paintings appear to have been made only after the walls were scraped clear of debris and concretions, leaving a smoother and noticeably lighter area upon which the artist worked. Similarly, a three-dimensional quality and the suggestion of movement are achieved by incising or etching around the outlines of certain figures. The art is also exceptional for its time for including scenes, including animals interacting with each other. A pair of woolly rhinoceroses, for example, are seen butting horns in an apparent contest for territory or mating rights. Oh, man.
Interesting.
Those woolly rhinoceroses.
So here's the question I've always thought about those cave paintings. Is that, you know how like there's always like the one person that we all know who's like doing something but just never like releases it to the world and is like, no, this is just for me, I'm just gonna do my thing, and I'm like, I feel like that's the person that it was the caveman. All the other cave people, all the other human ancestors. We'll go the human French ancestors.
Yeah, those people,
those folks. All those folks are hunting. They're trying to take down the saber-toothed tigers and woolly mammoths, and probably a few of them die, get trampled, get tossed about, like, whatever. And then there's this one person who, honestly, I'm going to go with, it's probably like a really wise old grandmother, and is like, you know what? I'm just going to do my thing. I know no one's going to see this.
Yeah.
But it's craft painting. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Craft podcast, craft painting.
So the whole tribe comes in from hunting. There's like, it's like, so Frank, what have you been doing today?
Frank, when are you going to give it up? When are you going to give up art? Why don't you do hunting? There's so much more future in hunting.
Right. Yeah.
That's
like, they're just constantly walking by in the cave, just being like, that looks nothing like a hyena. It's not even realistic.
That's yeah. That's where my mind pleasantly runs to, and thinking that whoever that person is that did the painting clearly had the last laugh.
Right.
But yeah.
It's the life of an artist. You're never appreciated in your time. I just went through like the standard history and like the progression. So after cave paintings, we had petroglyphs. Yes, petroglyph, from my understanding, is stone carving, pretty much, right? Actually, so instead of painting, it's more of like carving into the stone or carving into something to make a design or a picture, right? So we went from 30,000 years ago to that where we had cave paintings. It took 20,000 years for humans to move from a cave painting to petroglyphs. 20,000 years before anybody else thought of something else to do.
I always wondered, like, back then, is it just like, is that people lived in so far apart scenarios and there were so few people at the time? Or did it have to do more with like I mean, some of it I wonder is the fact that if it was primarily a nomadic way of
Mm,
traveling, and not even nomadic, but it was mainly like hunter. Like you weren't even
yeah.
like farming wasn't a thing, so you had no
Right.
ability to kind of like sit down and essentially get bored
Settle. Yeah.
and settle.
Yeah.
Um,
Right. You're just
but
constantly on the move.
yeah, but for 20,000 years, that's
20,000 years.
that's taking your time to develop a new idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hardly go 20,000 seconds without something else being invented, right? like, we, like it's so crazy that 20,000 years between cave paintings and somebody else saying, "I think I'm just gonna try something else." Then from petroglyphs, we go to pictograms, which first pictogram is documented about 9,000 BC.
Nice.
So the difference between a petroglyph and a pictogram, from my understanding, is that a pictogram kind of tells a story. So instead of depicting a scene like a cave painting or a petroglyph does, a pictogram actually kind of expresses
Mm-hmm.
expresses the situation. So it's the use of many symbols together to form a story. So instead of just showing an event, they describe it in a way. From pictograms, we go to ideograms. This was kind of hard to understand. So a pictogram, let's picture a pictogram of like the sun, right? Which would basically be like a circle, right? So a pictogram of the sun would, let's say you and I developed a pictogram of the sun, we made a circle. That's a pictogram.
Okay.
Ideograms, if a pictogram showed the sun, an ideogram would show would try to describe heat or try to describe like a day or something that is kind of not expressed by the symbol itself. So pictograms usually represented the object they took the shape of, but ideograms began to communicate feelings, emotions, ideas, etc. The best example I could find was an eye with a tear equals sadness. So like it's showing like emotions or feelings or something like that.
Interesting. Well, or
Yeah.
the other the more modern example I think is the no smoking sign.
Right.
Or at least that's what I'm seeing right here.
As an ideogram.
Correct.
So it's communicating an idea that you cannot smoke in this area.
Correct.
With one symbol.
The Ghostbusters logo is in fact an ideogram.
I did think of that as well. Oh, yeah, the most famous ideogram of them all. And then from ideograms, we go to basically alphabets. The first alphabet, I believe, was created by the Semitic people, and it's all subsequent alphabets around the world, with the sole exception of Korean Hangul, have either descended from the Semitic alphabet or been inspired by one of its descendants. We all pretty much know what happens with the alphabet, right? Alphabet means that we now have different symbols for different sounds that we make, and there's different languages that kind of breed off of that. In the year 105, Sai Lun invents paper. There you go. And not until 1250 did the quill become popularly used as a writing utensil.
It took a long time.
So pen and paper didn't really find themselves for about 100 years. Well, sorry, 1,000 years.
Yeah.
Yep. So then after that, we move from basically what is known as print technology with the communication world.
Gutenberg.
So we move on from print technology into what is called telecommunications, which is the transmitting of signals over a distance as a means of communication. So it went from just writing things down to actually sending things to each other. Do you know what the first telecommunication was, or one of the first?
I would assume the radio would be the first.
No, older than that. Think old.
Telegram?
Like if you and me were in the woods, lost, but we needed to signal to each other without, we're both just bare naked in the woods, nothing on us. Okay.
Wow, this got desperate real quick. We went from
But we
nice walk in the woods to you're naked, it's freezing, you're gonna die. unless you
but no.
use telecommunication. What is it?
Right. Yeah, we need to signal to each other somehow. How would you do it?
Scream. Is that not it? Nope. I mean,
Sorry, I just got
I'm
a
giving
picture
a signal.
of just give me a picture of a naked guy screaming in the woods by himself.
Oh man. All right. Well, folks,
All right.
we're gonna get beyond that.
Anyway. Yeah. No, smoke signals was
Oh, okay. My next
was
guess
what I was trying to get
my
to.
next-
I'm sure screaming came before smoke signals. I was trying to be a little more sophisticated than just screaming.
I mean, it sounded like a very primal state of distress that we were finding ourselves into this very hypothetical situation.
Oh, man. Yeah, very hypothetical. Screaming probably could be an argument made that was the first
That's probably why
telecommunication.
smoke signals were invented, come to think of it.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Can you scream that far? No. Can you imagine living at a time where you had to worry about how how loud you could scream? Who's the best screamer we got? Ooh, Tauntaun, he's really good.
Oh.
He's really good at screaming.
Wait, did you just say his name was Tauntaun? All right. Interesting little Hoth throwback there.
Sorry.
But,
Yeah, sorry.
Oh my
Yeah, I
gosh.
got Star Wars on the brain.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Tauntaun's our best screamer. He can scream. He can scream for miles.
Then you have
Well,
a howler monkey at higher. Oh, wow.
yeah, right.
Oh, wow.
Oh man, do you think they trained howler monkeys to communicate? Anyway, that's
Yeah.
not documented. That's not science.
We do-
so,
yeah,
we'll,
no.
we'll move on. In Africa, I guess they used the banging of drums as well to communicate over.
That makes a
periods of
lot
time.
more sense than screaming.
In the year 26 to 37, Roman Emperor Tiberius ruled the empire from the island of Capri by signaling messages with metal mirrors to reflect the sun.
Well,
yeah,
that way, Tiberius.
We don't get into radio until 1920.
Yeah, okay, all right. There's still some, distance between that and Tiberius.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Just a little.
just a little bit.
Just a smidge.
Just a few hundred lifetimes. That's fine. No, you're good. But yeah, the radio does come into play around 1920. There's a lot of stuff in between that, but we'll just skip all that flag signaling and stuff like that. We don't need to worry about that. Thomas Edison, I mean, he's given credit for the light bulb, but he also created the phonograph, which was the first. I mean, that's basically a record player, right?
Yeah.
And then of course you got Alexander Graham Bell in there. You got Samuel Morse, in 1836 who created Morse code. But we'll save Morse code for our code episode. We can talk more about that later. And then from there on, I think we all kind of understand what happens, right? Once the radio's invented, and then we get into fax machine. Oddly enough, fax is the next thing on the list because fax was patented actually in 1843.
Holy cow! Really?
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Man,
There's a patent issued for the electric printing telegraph, which is a very very early forerunner of the fax machine. So the first patent for the fax really was in 1843. Have you ever faxed anything?
Yes. I forget what it was, but I remember very distinctly.
I love you.
Why am I sending this message over fax? It's very strange. No, I remember very specifically having to find a fax something for free site. you had to pay like I don't know, it's like 15 cents or something, to where like
Yeah.
I didn't know. I had to look on the internet on the computer to find an ability to scan something I already had, and then fax it, in which it essentially like emails it in the form of a fax.
Right. Weird. That's crazy.
So,
How soon was this? How far back in the past?
I want to say 3 or 4 years ago. I forget what it was
Wow,
for.
that's a lot more recent than I was thinking.
Yeah,
Wow.
like
Okay.
there's some lingering stuff, man, that just kind of hangs on. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, clearly the guy who patented it in the 1800s knew what they were talking about. So, um,
Yeah.
good for them.
That is crazy. 1843, the guy has a patent on electronic printing telegraph. That's nuts. So from fax machines, the next thing to be invented was mobile telephones. Believe it or not, in 1947, and then computers in 1949. And we all know what happened with computers. Now they're taking over the world. We're already pretty deep into this episode, but I had one more bit that I wanted to do with you. Do you have time to do a
Yeah,
little bit more?
let's do the
Okay.
bit.
I wanted to talk about notable failures in the field of communication. Um, notable, I guess it's not really fair to call them failures, but I did want to kind of highlight. We just went through kind of a very general time lapse of communication throughout the years,
Okay,
throughout the history of the world.
just a small little.
Yeah, we should teach a class. we just covered everything from 37,000 years ago to now.
37,000 years and 35 minutes, people. You got it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So within that time frame, there's been some interesting stuff, especially recently, that has hit the markets that I wanted to talk about. Do you remember Zune? Did you ever have a Zune player?
No. I had a Sony Walkman MP3 player.
Did you?
Which was a
Okay.
short-lived, though glorious.
I'd be interested to see, how long it lived. How long
It's still
like,
alive.
the time frame was. Is it?
Well,
They're still coming
sorry,
out with
sorry. No. Sorry. I mean, it's still functioning.
Oh.
No, they don't make it anymore, which is a pity, because they were
Okay.
pretty nice.
The Walkman. That was a classic.
Yeah.
80s child. Are you an 80s child?
I mean, I was
child,
born in
right?
87, so it was more like a
You are an 80s
Walkman
child.
CD player. Wait, so did you have a Zune?
Yeah. I had a Zune. Yeah, my first step up from just a straight up CD player was a Zune. That was my first introduction into like MP3 type of song listening and
That's cool.
downloading
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So the Zune, I just think it's funny. I mean, it's a failure. It only existed for 6 years. Just think about it. For 20,000 years, all we did was paint on walls, and then for 6 years, we had the ability to, or Zune. I personally had the ability to download music onto my Zune. After that, I wasn't able to do it anymore. It was my music of choice in college, and I remember going into the Zune marketplace to get my music for like 99 cents a song. Yeah. Did you listen? What is a Walkman? Is a Walkman basically a CD player?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Walkman
Or
was
is it
just
digital?
it was just their brand of whatever format they were working on. So it originally, I think it
Okay.
originated as a cassette player, and then it shifted into a CD player, which I had.
Okay.
And then eventually they also had a Walkman MP3 player, which I also had. So strangely, I became somewhat of a Sony user, which, I mean, they were great. I most of my way I earned money was mowing lawns as a kid, and I figured out how to put little headphones inside the like big earmuff things for protecting your ears.
I did the same thing too.
Dude, it changes your life, especially in those days. Yeah, it was. I felt like I invented something.
That's so crazy.
Yeah,
that's so crazy that you and I both did the exact same thing.
Yeah,
because I remember riding my lawnmower, and the moment I realized I have like these little tiny earbuds, I can put those in my ears and put the soundproof headphones on.
it was so good.
And I can just chill out to music the whole time.
Yep. It was
very dangerous.
oh yeah, very very dangerous and probably not good for your hearing at all.
We should move on because I think we'll do a music episode down the line
Yeah.
too. That we'll talk more about that later on. I thought Zune was kind of a funny mention with technology and communication. I think BlackBerry fits into that too.
Oh yeah,
It
I
was
was gonna say that's
yeah,
failed communication right there.
short-lived but very effective. I feel
Mhm.
like communication tool back in the day when beepers and things like that
Mhm.
were a thing.
Mhm.
Beepers
Mhm.
are a thing too to talk about. Do you remember beepers? Did you
I
ever have a beeper?
not personally, but I remember my dad having one for a time. Um, and I still don't really understand the point, but it was a different form of communication where I guess it's like they're just literally letting you know who called, and then
Right.
you go to a payphone and make a call about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Which to me, I'm
Right.
like,
It's basically just saying like, "Hey, I'm trying to get a hold of you. Call me at this number." That's pretty much all it is.
which is a wild notion of like I think a lot about this where it's interesting what was expected in communication back then. Where
Yeah.
if you call someone, like there's a piece of me, unless it's like calling the office and you just don't get back to a person if it's some like urgent need or something, or obviously if it's your wife or husband or whoever.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me is how quickly people expect now like you to respond in
Mhm.
communication, where like I wonder if like people were still on like landlines and like payphones, if people would be expecting others to like get back to you so quickly, or if they'd even be less
Mhm.
worried, because I feel like sure we have all this access,
Right.
but now we're so worried if someone hasn't like called us or texted us within like 5 minutes of them reaching a destination or something. I don't know.
Right.
It's
Yeah. There is a sense of responsibility
mhm.
too with early. I mean, we're talking early, but I mean, we're just really talking about like the 90s, the 80s and the
That's not
90s,
that
really.
long ago. Yeah.
It's really not that long ago. I
No.
mean, we were just watching. I mean, my wife and I are kind of rewatching episodes of like Seinfeld and stuff like this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, it's like this kind of this like societal expectation, like you know, like ooh, like leave me a message, right? And like check your messages when
Mm-hmm.
you get home, you know, and like this responsibility of getting back to somebody in time and stuff like that. I really don't feel like we have that anymore. Like I feel like it's kind of just like, yeah, leave me a message. Sure, maybe I'll listen to it in like a few months or something. Like you know, or yeah, text me. Maybe I'll see it. Maybe I won't. I don't care. You know, like it's so interesting the way the psychology around communication has changed. The more access we have to each other, it's interesting. Um, I thought AOL was an interesting mention as well. I remember as a
Oh
kid.
my gosh. Yeah.
I remember as a kid going to my friends' houses and realizing that my friends could talk to my other friends via instant messaging, and I said, "Wow, what is this?" Because I would go home to my farm home with dial up internet, and I would not talk to anybody because nobody was accessible where I lived. And then I went to my friends' houses and I realized, oh, everybody's talking to each other except for me. Cool. And then I remember my friend, I had a crush on a girl, and he's like, "Ooh, we can talk to her." And I was like, I thought he meant like on the phone, and I was like, I'm not gonna talk her on the like we're hanging out, like let's go shoot baskets or something, like whatever, like let's not. And then he's like, no, let's message her or let's IM her, and I said, I don't know what that means. And the next thing you know, we're talking to her online, and I'm like, ooh, this is interesting. That was my experience with
I
AOL.
am wow. AOL. Do you end up getting an IM?
I've never had an I. No, I
Oh,
never had
okay. All
IM.
right. It's
Never
funny.
did.
My I feel like that's a very generational thing. Is like asking somebody, "What was your IM back in the 90s?" And someone can be, "Oh yeah,
Yeah,
it was this." Um,
yeah.
where mine, um, not really. I I I don't really know how I feel about it, but it was loudmouth hokey every time. So my affiliations with tech. Not completely inaccurate as a personal statement, but
Oh man.
it was catchy, sort of. There's going to be so many things that we're doing now as a society. I know that in 50 years,
Yeah.
people are going to be like, what were they doing?
Yeah, I know. I can't wait to be 80 and just look back and just be like, yep, that was what we did. That was us.
I'm looking
this
forward
podcast being one of them.
Right. I'm looking forward to being 80. I'm not in a can't wait mode, but I'm looking forward to being 80.
Good. All right. Well, since we're running out of time, I'm going to rifle through these other,
Please. Yeah,
and
go
then
ahead.
Whatever comes to mind, feel free to knock it off. But I did want to mention MySpace as well as kind of a fleeting technological
R.I.P.
thing.
Yep.
R.I.P. Did you have a MySpace?
Nope.
No, me either. Okay, cool. Move past that. Ask Jeeves or Alta Vista or any other type it into the website, ask the internet type of situation. Before Googling was a thing, you had to ask a virtual butler a question.
Excuse me, Jeeves. Yes.
Right. I have the Google Glass on there
gosh,
as well.
Yeah.
Did you know the whole reason that Google Glass didn't it got cut was because they couldn't sell it to it was getting number one is $1,500. Number two, it made it so easy to record video discreetly. It actually, so there were bars, restaurants, movie theaters, everybody was banning it from their locations. You couldn't wear Google Glass inside of the location. Now, it makes sense, right? Because especially movie theaters and stuff like that, there's so many places that just banned it that they had to. That's why they had to scrap it, because nobody could wear them anywhere.
Did you remember anybody that had them?
No, I never met anybody that had them. Did you?
I met one person that had it, and it was such a weird experience.
Really?
Because it was like a combination. It was like a 3-way combination of the guys wearing glasses. Oh, this guy's Google Glassing. Oh, that's cool. Then the third one's like, oh, he could be recording this whole thing.
Right.
What is how do I so I felt like I went from 3 different varying emotions, one being neutral, the second one being, oh, this guy's cool, and the third one being like,
yeah,
I don't know if I like
don't
this.
know how to act around this guy.
I don't know how I like this. Not a fan.
That's why they were pretty much banned, because I think that third revelation that you had, I think everybody else had it too.
Yeah.
So and then the final mention I'll make is QR codes. I still think QR codes are useful. I think especially during the pandemic. I think they've come in handy.
I saw a lot of restaurants start doing QR codes again.
Yeah, they came back. They had a brief resurgence. Well, hey guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We say it every time, but we'll say it again. Please like, subscribe, comment. If you like the content that we're putting out there, guys, we want you to respond to us.
Please share.
To enter. Yeah, please share. Yeah,
please share.
Yeah. You want to say it again?
Please share.
Please share.
Please share.
Next episode, guys, we will be diving into some secret coding. The game of the month is code names, so it seems appropriate that we should dedicate a whole episode to the concept of codes. But until next time, guys,
be happy,
brew hoppy,
and
game on. Cheers. I got that much left.
Oh yeah. Marea, which is Spanish for tide. It is a 4,000-mile-long subsea cable that lies 17,000 feet below the ocean's surface and extends between Virginia Beach, Virginia, and the city of Bilbao, Spain. Microsoft, Facebook, and the telecoms infrastructure company Telxius have announced the completion of the highest capacity subsea cable to ever cross the Atlantic Ocean. The cable is capable of transmitting 160 terabytes of data per second, the equivalent of streaming 71 million HD videos at the same time, and 16 million times faster than the average home internet connection Microsoft claims.
Yeah, it's a hard wire to another continent. Wow.
Yeah.
That's nuts.